morning, you guys, it's Karen, and I thought I would come and tell you the 5 things that I do that really help my bladder pain and how I use these things to manage the bladder situation, and things are much better with this, doing this, using all of these things. And there's also 5 things that I don't do or don't use. So hopefully this will be useful to you. The number one thing that gives me pain relief is this, and I have talked about this, I've done a whole video on this. It is basically water in here with a couple of drops of essential oil in. So I vary the essential oils I put in. I've used lavender, I have used tea tree oil, but more often than not, I will use peppermint. But you need to be extremely, extremely careful with peppermint. You do not want to burn your bits. And I have done that before. I've put too much peppermint oil in before, sprayed it and been like, oh, and it's burning for ages afterwards. You know, so the goal is not to burn. The goal is actually to numb the area. So usually I have this sitting in my bathroom if I'm having any kind of flare up. It's in my bathroom cupboard for me to grab if I'm in pain after going for a wee. And I have it in my handbag. I take it everywhere with me so that I can use it. There's times where if I didn't have this spray on me, I probably would have been sat in public toilets for ages, because, you know, it's painful at the end if you've had a wee, and it's, not everybody gets that symptom, but a lot of us do. And I would just be sitting there waiting for that pain to pass. But when I spray this on, it is instant relief, and it sort of numbs the area. And you could either just spray it once, or you could spray it, you know, quite a few times all over, and then just sort of dab it with tissue so that you're not like soaking wet. But it, like I said, it gives instant relief. And so this is the number 1 for me. Number 2 on my list is pumpkin seed oil. Now, I've talked about it before and I showed you this. These are the capsules that I take. I take one of these every single night. They are huge. I can't take capsules. I'll show you them against my thumb, and I've got quite big nails. They're really big pills. I can't take tablets at all. I can't take them with water unless they are like the tiniest thing. And so the way I take these is by eating a bit of food, and then I put it in the middle of the food. So I take these with my dinner in the evening, and I take 1. I think you're supposed to take 2 of these. Yeah, 2 quick release soft gels has 2 grams of pumpkin seed oil in. Since I've been taking these, things are way better at night. That's what I've noticed. Way better. Like, I don't get up as much during the night. I can go to bed and fall asleep and maybe get up once in the night. Sometimes on miracle days, I don't get up at all. But this has been so helpful. As soon as I run out, this is just a fairly new bottle. I had run out and I thought, well, let me see again. But as soon as I run out, that's happened like 3 times now, I noticed the difference at night. So I really would highly recommend these. And I did a video on this, and there is research behind this on it working for bladder conditions in men and women. So it's definitely worth a shot. Now, when I did that video, somebody commented the other day that why on earth would you buy the capsules, and that it was just a waste of money, and you know, you're funding that kind of thing. But this is the way that I found it the easiest. And I had tried pumpkin seed oil before and found that it tasted very dusty. I used to try and put it into my morning shake. But when she said that, I thought, well, there's no harm in me trying another pumpkin oil as well. So I bought these, and I'm taking one of these at night. But I also found this organic pumpkin seed oil. I bought this from Amazon. It's very, very dark. My husband was like, what on earth are you doing, when I was tipping it into my shake the other morning? He's like, you're putting oil in your shake. I was like, I know, but it's pumpkin seed oil, and you barely use any. I mean, this is, how much is in here? So this is like 500 mil or something, isn't it? And you use 2 mil. Really, you should probably use 1 or 2 mil. So I just put a few drops in my morning shake. And I have to say, I think it's helping now in the day as well with me having that in the morning, because the daytime, I'm mostly okay. I'm okay if I'm at home, but the time where it's really extremely painful for me is if I leave the house. And so when that most happens is if I've got an appointment, at the weekend, normally when I'm taking Watson for a walk. So the time that it really panics me is when I'm meeting friends for a walk, and the place that we often meet, the 2 places we meet, there's no toilets. There's no toilets. There's nowhere you could go behind the bushes. It's a little sort of park off a main road. And I'm always panicked that I'm going to get in pain and need to go for a wee. So I tend to not drink for hours beforehand. And then if I go for a walk at the weekend with my husband, obviously he knows of the problem. I will try and not drink too much before I leave, but sometimes he has to stop on the side of the road for me, and we had to do it a couple of weeks ago, and he was laughing his head off because I had to squeeze my way through these bushes and trees, and I was getting scratched and everything, before I could find somewhere that nobody could see me. And then I couldn't get out quite as easy as I got in, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But I've noticed that being better because I've only had this about a week and a half. And I did meet my friends last weekend, and there was no issues. I wasn't. Normally what happens is when I leave them, I'm like hot-footing it to McDonald's to use their bathroom. So I would highly recommend pumpkin seed oil. Number 3 is actually a drug, and it's amitriptyline. But I wanted to talk about it because I think I've done a whole video on amitriptyline. I'm not sure. If you would like me to do one, if I haven't, then let me know. But what I wanted to tell you about it is if you're not getting on with amitriptyline, which I can imagine a lot of people don't, and I know my dad didn't get on with it, he was on it for diabetic neuropathy, then there is another one called nortriptyline. And I know I've got a family member that takes nortriptyline, and she gets on much better with that. And nortriptyline is less drowsy than amitriptyline. For me, I was given amitriptyline when I had this bladder condition, and to start with, and it was after I've been to like 3 holidays where I've ended up either in A&E, like bleeding, just peeing blood in really bad situations. And this particular one, I'd come back from Barcelona where I'd been in A&E, had a really bad time, got a really bad infection, and I ended up, I couldn't work. I left the job I was in and I couldn't work for a couple of months. And so I was kind of lucky in the respect that when I was given amitriptyline, it didn't matter about the drowsiness because I was at home. And I remember the first night I took it was so funny. My husband said, you were literally falling off the couch. You were so tired. And I used to be an insomniac. I never used to go to sleep until sort of 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then since taking amitriptyline, I'm in bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night. But when I first took it, I would go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I would get up at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. I would be up for a couple of hours. I would go back to bed and sleep for another couple of hours. So I know how the drowsiness can affect you, and it took probably a month for that to balance out. So if you can bear with it for a month, I would say it's an amazing drug. If you tried it and it's just too drowsy, there's another one called nortriptyline that you can try. And not all doctors tell you about the alternatives that there are, Currently I take 40 milligrams of amitriptyline. I started on 10 milligrams, and I would say that amitriptyline was one of the things that allowed me to go back to work. I got a job in the NHS. I was still in a lot of pain when I started there. I think I was off work probably 3 months, something like that. And got this new job in the NHS, and I was still in pain, and I still had to do a lot of kind of management, if you like, and I was very near a toilet. That was good. Very understanding employers, but amitriptyline is what made it possible for me to leave the house. And my spray, that spray that I use. If you don't want to use a spray, this was actually my husband's idea, believe it or not. Not so much the spray, but I can't remember how it came about because he doesn't even like me using essential oils. He hates the smell. But he said, why don't you put a few drops in water and kind of tip it on yourself and see if it helps? And then I thought, well, I could try it in a spray bottle. But the spray and amitriptyline meant that I could go to work. Number 4 is bicarb of soda. And this is something that you can take. This is not something that I use regularly, but it is something that is and was extremely useful if you are... that person looks like a tree is about to go into their living room. Sorry, randomly, I've been watching it out the corner of my eye. I can see this flat, and they've kind of got the door a little bit open. God knows why in this weather. And it's like one of their plants, I think, but it's like a big tree. I think it's moved to right outside their window. And I don't know if it's just the angle that I can see that it's not actually open. I might have to go out there and check and give them a call or something. I don't know if they're at home. I'm sure they would notice if they were at home. It literally looks, it's not a huge tree. It just, if it goes in, it's not going to do major damage, but it might give somebody a fright. What was I saying? Bicarbonate of soda. Yeah, this is baking soda, bicarbonate of soda. You can get it from any supermarket. This is super hugely relieving if you are having a flare-up. So if I have a flare-up, which is thankfully not very often now, but like I said, the worst thing for me is if I need a wee, I'm in absolute agony until I can get and have one. So when I'm at home, I'm fine. But I do have flare-ups. I had a flare-up a couple of weeks ago where it felt like I had cystitis. I never ever have I've got the sticks. I never ever have an infection. It just feels like I do. This is just amazing. So you can take bicarbonate of soda, you can put a little quarter of a teaspoon into water and drink it, or you can buy something like, I used to have these sachets, but they ended up going out of date. I didn't, because I'm kind of on top of things now, I didn't use them as much, but Cystopurin, you can buy those and have them in, and then that just helps. It changes the alkalinity of your urine and makes it not as painful when it's coming out. So that's one way that it can help. But another way is you can put it in your bath, and soaking it in a bath can help with this in it, because again, it's changing it from the outside that way. I actually read as well that if you are really in a big flare up and in pain, you could sit in a bowl or in a bath and you can pee that way with bicarbonate of soda in the water. Thankfully, I've never got quite that bad, or I have been that bad, but I didn't know about that trick then. I'd never heard of that. So number 4, bicarbonate soda. Number 5, you are going to think I have lost my marbles when I tell you this. This is what I used to soothe. I don't mean I used it externally. I mean, I drank it. So this is Diet Coke, but this has no caffeine. So it's really important that it has no caffeine. The fact that it is Diet Coke, you'd probably be better going for full sugar. If you're not worried about dieting and you're not worried about avoiding sugar, then probably go for a full fat, if there is such a thing, caffeine-free one. But I was drinking the Diet Coke with no caffeine. That goes against everything that is on the list of foods and things that you shouldn't eat, because it has sweeteners in it. But I went through a whole period of completely cutting out every type of sweetener possible, and it made no difference to me whatsoever. So it's something that I know doesn't personally affect me. But what I found, I remember saying to Kev, it's weird, but it's almost like when I have one of these, it soothes it a little bit. And I was like, I must be imagining that. But I kept on doing it, I kept on testing it out, and it did seem like I had one of these. Now, I don't know whether it was psychological or what. I don't normally drink these in the day. I don't drink them in the day anymore now, but it is something that I seem to drink it. And I suppose maybe it's the pH. I haven't ever checked the pH of it. I will do that. I'm definitely going to check the pH of it and see if it's that. Maybe that's what it is, but it just, I felt that it soothed it. So like I said, it's really important that you get a caffeine-free one, because caffeine-free is a no for most people. But for me, it worked. Try it one day. Just have one can of Diet caffeine-free Coke. I didn't use, you can get Pepsi. I have the Pepsi sometimes as well, but it was literally the Diet Coke that worked for me. So I don't know whether there's something in the cola nut that is perhaps good for the urinary tract or something, but that was always a surprising one. So those are the things I do to help myself. The things that I don't do, and these are more, I suppose, important, or as important. Number 1 is limit alcohol. And I say limit because I really enjoy a Bacardi and Diet Coke. I have this in my Diet Coke, in my Bacardi, with my Bacardi at the weekends in the evening. And I pay the price for that. I know that there's a difference, because when I don't have any alcohol during the week, I can go a whole night without getting up to go for a wee. If I have even just one drink, I will get up at least once in the night. So it's definitely an irritant. Alcohol is definitely an irritant. So if you can reduce it, limit it, cut it out, whatever you can do to reduce the amount of alcohol you take, then that will help you. Number 2, caffeine. I don't have caffeine very often at all. And what I've done now is, I've certainly been drinking decaffeinated coffee for years, although decaffeinated coffee has caffeine in it, but I would only ever have one decaffeinated coffee a day. And I would also drink something called Caro. I'll show you. So this is what I drink. Caro, naturally caffeine-free. So this is chicory and rye drinks, not something I could have had when I was on keto, which made no difference to the bladder situation, by the way. But I really enjoy this, and this is something I've drunk for years actually, and I just drink it as a coffee. If you like mild coffee, then you may well like this. If you are a strong coffee drinker, then you probably won't like this. My husband wouldn't dream of having this. He doesn't, even my coffees, he's like, what on earth is the point? Because he has 2 teaspoons of ground coffee, whereas if I was having actual coffee, I'd have half a teaspoon of coffee. So I like really mild coffee. But I do still occasionally have a coffee. I would tend to have it for medicinal purposes, because if I'm taking painkillers and I want to get them in my system quicker, I will have a cup of caffeinated coffee with it. I would only do that if my bladder wasn't playing up, or I wasn't I certainly wouldn't have one before going out for a walk or anything like that. So most of the time I have this. But the other thing I switched, and I think has been a really big help over the last probably 6 months since I've been doing this, I changed my tea bags to the decaffeinated tea bags. And again, remember, decaffeinated tea bags still have caffeine in them. They just don't have as much as the caffeinated ones. And I can't tell any difference at all. No difference whatsoever. They're slightly less strong, but they're not weak. They're not weak tea bags at all. My husband occasionally has a tea, and he was surprised that they didn't taste any different, because he certainly wouldn't drink decaffeinated coffee. He said he can taste the difference with that, but with tea he can't. And that's an area that maybe you could cut down some caffeine. And I also don't drink any caffeine after 12 o'clock. So I don't have any, like I said, the Diet Coke I have is caffeine-free. I wouldn't get one if I was getting it from outside of here, I wouldn't just get a Diet Coke. If I'm in a restaurant or whatnot, I'd change to water or juice or something. But I don't have any caffeine after 12 o'clock. And I find that helps a lot with the evening, through the night and the evening, and it just helps overall. Number 3, what I don't do is I don't drink an hour and a half to 2 hours before I go out anywhere. That is not going to give me easy access to toilets. So if I'm going clothes shopping, it's fine, because I can normally go to the toilets in boots. I'm one of those that knows where all the toilets are. It was really difficult in lockdown, I have to say, because they closed the toilets, obviously. But anyway, if I was going, it's normally when I'm going on a walk, like I said, when I'm meeting my friends and I know that there's not going to be access to toilets, I will try and not drink 2 hours before I leave. I actually put an alarm on my phone, and when that alarm goes off, I don't drink anything until the walk is finished. I normally take a bottle of water with me, because I haven't mentioned it, but it's really important to stay hydrated and to drink a lot. But you've got to balance that with, if you're constantly running to the toilet like me, I probably go every half an hour now, maybe every hour. I can go a few hours without it, but there are times when I'm like every 15 minutes I'm going. So if you're going to the toilet, you've got to balance between staying hydrated but not putting yourself in a situation where you need to go for a wee all the time. And so if I don't drink for 2 hours before I go, I know I'm going to be out of the house for 2 hours. I don't want to not drink anything for that whole time. So I'll tend to wait until the end of the walk, and then I'll drink that bottle of water as I'm heading home, knowing that when I get home, I've got the facilities to use. Number 4, I don't wear jeans very often. Jeans is something that for me became a no-no at the time of that, when this all kind of flared up really terribly after the Barcelona weekend. And that was, oh goodness me, when was that? 2005, so 15 years ago. No, 18 years ago, long time ago anyway, that I stopped wearing jeans. I just started wearing loose jogging bottoms, leggings, completely changed my fashion. It was very, very annoying, and I always looked forward to wearing jeans again. And I do now wear jeans occasionally. I would say I wear jeans once a month. When I go to meet my friend, I tend to wear a pair of jeans, but even then I wore a skirt last time, because if you can feel that it's going to be irritated at all, then don't wear jeans. It's just because of the way that they're made. There is a seam right in the area that you don't want there to be, and it's pressing on you and sort of irritating that area. And so I have found it just more comfortable to wear leggings or jogging pants. It's funny actually, because I think when I was in Barcelona and things were really bad, my husband, he wasn't my husband at the time, but he was so cute. He was sitting in the bathroom. We were literally sitting in the bathroom for most of one of the days, because I was just in so much pain and I couldn't get off. Every time I got off the toilet, I felt like I needed to go, but I didn't. And then I started bleeding, and that was it. He was like, right, that's it, we're going to the hospital. As it turned out, the hospital was just down the road from us. And the thing was, I said to him, I don't know what I'm going to wear, because I can't, all I had was jeans, I think. And I was like, I cannot put my jeans on. And so he had these, what do you call them, linen trousers. So I put his linen trousers on, but my husband is 6'2", and I put flip-flops on, and they were like tucking underneath me. I was nearly tripping over, but I couldn't have anything close to that area, So that definitely helps, wearing the right things. And they tell you to wear like 100% cotton underwear, and I don't think I've ever paid attention to that, to be honest. That's something I should probably look at. Number 5, what I don't do, I suppose this is the same as number 4 really, but I don't go on a normal exercise bike or a bike anymore. Kev and I used to go on bike rides together. That became impossible when this happened. It just flared it up and was so painful for me. Not necessarily while I was on the bike, but afterwards I would just constantly be stinging, going backwards and forwards to the bathroom. So I stopped that. And I then tried an exercise bike years later when I had a knee operation. I was using an exercise bike for rehab, and that caused flare-ups. I have an exercise bike now, but it's a hybrid exercise bike. So I would recommend either a recumbent bike or a hybrid one. And I can only use this for like 15, 20 minutes at a time. And if I use it more than that, it would flare up. It would give me a flare up. That's everything that I've got to tell you. I hope that this is useful. It is, I would say that my migraines are the number one worst thing I've dealt with in my life. But very close second is the bladder problem, because it was just so all encompassing. And it's funny because Kev and I were talking about this particular flat we stayed in, and I was saying, oh yeah, I loved it there. And he said, I'm surprised you did, because we were only there for a year, and most of that year you were on crutches because I'd had a knee operation. And I said to him, you know, that my knee operation, although it was painful and it looked horrendous and I couldn't walk, I was on crutches, it was the least problematic disease or, you know, health challenge that I've had, because it wasn't, I could still walk around. I just had to do it on crutches. It wasn't as easy, but I could do it. The migraine is definitely all encompassing, but the bladder thing, I just could not get myself out of pain for days and days when it first, you know, I said when I came back from Barcelona, the plane ride was hell on earth. I had bought Cystopurine sachets and I had tipped them into bottles of water, and I was drinking that like before, during and after. I had to use the plane toilet, of course, but I couldn't just sit in there, you know, it was just awful. And I hadn't discovered my spray or anything like that at the time. I just wanted to be at home, and I never wanted to leave home again, you know. I spent so much time in the bathroom. So I hope that some of these things really help you. There is a bladder painkiller that you can get on the internet that somebody recommended. You can get it from Amazon, actually. I took it once, it didn't do much for me, but I read up on the drug, and it is carcinogenic in small quantities, meaning that it could be cancer causing if you take it for a long, long time. But obviously that's something you've got to decide for yourself. I was in agony at the time, so I was like, whatever, I'm trying anything. And there's lots and lots of different herbs and things that you can try. I have tried practically every one out there. But I'll put that in the description in case you want to check it out and see what it's all about. And then obviously there's lots of drugs you can get from your doctor. There's lots of procedures you can have. I have had a couple of procedures, had bladder installations. It hasn't worked. A couple of others I've said, no, thank you. Same with drugs. I said no to Elmeron. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I hope this is helpful. Please put your tips and tricks in the comments below as well, because that really helps everybody else if you've got anything else that I haven't mentioned. And I hope this helps you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.